This is the gate of increase, the gate of growth. This is the gate of maximizing the potential of beginnings through expansion. It's also the gate of bringing things to a close so that the next step can be taken. It's the power to complete a cycle and in the process, grow. Basically, one thing at a time is its mantra. Here in this format is the core of the abstract process. And since there is no splenic activation in this circuit, the cyclic process can be unhealthy and is always dominated by the presence of fear. Without the spleen, the recognition of the essential value of the now is missing. And yet for the stability of the abstract way, it must be accepted as essential. We exist in the now anyway, despite our perspectives. The change of the cyclical process is not the goal. The grail is the holy grail is the experience. The abstract being must be absorbed in experience of the now in order to reflect on the experience later. The potential of growth is its power to mature through completion of each cycle. And right now we're in the first line, diversification. In the exaltation, the ability when surplus resources are available to extend one's activities beyond their normal scope. Grow through expansion, particularly when defined to the root. So it's the end of the process. This gate, if the 53rd gate gives us the beginning, the 42nd gate gives us the end of the process. So if there is possibility for growth for us here, that's only what strategy and authority can tell us. It will be about expanding the resources to maximize your potential and eventually after the experience gather the wisdom of this experience and grow thanks to that experiential wisdom at the end. Tomorrow will be the second line, identification, again in exaltation, recognition and acute capitalization of trends, power for growth through participating in trends. So tomorrow, everything trendy will be selling very well. And this is where the shine is going to be of the day. In 2 days, the third line, trial and error process. It's also called trial and error. This line, in times of increase, mistakes are a natural part of the process. So the energy and assertion to turn mistakes into advantages, the power to accept mistakes as part of growth, or a moodiness that in error may succumb to brooding and unnecessary caution. Mistakes give power to moodiness and caution and feeling depressed. And we have 3 gates in the format channels, the 42nd, the 3rd, and the 52nd gate, steel mountain, which is our immature energy right now. There is deep possibility and potential for depression here. So then we will have the 4th line, the middleman, the quintessential manifestation of the mediator, the maturity to bring growth through mediation, or where the gift to establish and maintain relationships is ill-suited in this position to act in mediation, where harmony must take a back seat to pragmatism, a lack of maturity where the power to harmonize distorts mediation and limits growth. And if you hence don't wait for the opportunity to get to be in the middle and to get the possibility to maturity through mediation, or take a backseat to pragmatism. Then the fifth line, self-actualization. I know this one very well. I have it. It's the fulfillment in the exaltation and actualization of purpose as a natural path whose reward is a healthy sense of self rather than the power and influence that naturally follow. Growth that is self-fulfilling and naturally leads to influence. Then in the sixth line, we have nurturing. Again, both we have here exaltation and detriment, a natural and an instinctive nurturing of others, the power to share the process of growth with others, or a restrictive and malefic materialism that is self-alienating and encourages aggression, the refusal to share the benefits of growth with others. This is what's in the air. So there is a possibility for growth or not, to finish things, and whether it's correct or not, only your strategy and authority can tell you, because you might have the inclination to finish things which are not done yet, for instance. And we have the opposition in the 32nd gate, which is duration, the gate of continuity. But also it shows that the only thing which is enduring is actually change. This is the awareness potential in the instinct to adapt. You see, it's also part of the channel of ambition, to adapt and in the now without losing continuity. This is the gate of duration, where all of our instinctive imprinting is rooted. By its nature, it is extremely conservative, and where the sensitivity stream is social and communal, the instinctive stream is social and individual. Rooted in the splenic system, it is first and foremost about individual survival on the material plane, and it will not rush to embrace a revolution, but if it succeeds and is established in the general community, then it will instinctively adapt, maintaining its basic nature. This is the potential awareness of what can or cannot be transformed. Its duration and part of the channel of transformation. It is the break on the drive of the 54, which is on the other side, in the root center, the adrenaline pressure. So it's adrenalizing the continuity. What is transformed and stored as instinctive memory determines the ultimate strength of the ego. Each gate of the splenic center has an underlying fear. Here is the fear of failure. It can be the gate of prolonged indecision, the conservative reliance, agonizing over the risks of being driven towards transformation, or it can see the value of transforming in order to grow. It's in the center of well-being, and what we see as specific energies which we go through is the first line today, conservatism. It's about a life-sustaining respect and attention to all aspects of a process. The potential to develop the instinct through detailed attention to a process. And remember, here we have support. It's part of the tribal circuit. So the potential, you need, in order to maximize your potential, you need the support. And here you can have the uncontrollable urge to bypass essentials, which inevitably leads to the disruption of continuity, and the fear of lack of potential and the corresponding lack of attention. Not knowing where to focus. So here we have introspection. It's about indeed being conservative and authoritative in continuity, so to speak. You need to have a stable base on which to build the whole house. The second line, restraint, the control of power for the benefit and enhancement of harmony, the potential for transformation that may be beneficial to others, or a tendency in frustration, particularly from a position of strength, to social withdrawal rather than persistent control. The frustration with controls or being controlled. Again, here we have support, and here we have the natural who doesn't want to be controlled. He just want to be left alone. Then we will get to the third line, the lack of continuity, indecision. So it's the trial and error line, indecision and persistent reevaluation that only because of its basic intelligence manages to endure. Indecision in times of transformation, an over-reliance on traditionally legitimized standards that in times of change can be totally out of step and suffer unexpected humiliation, a lack of instinct in times of transformation. So something to be aware of, because this is where we ground. Then we have the fourth line, the opportunity, yes or no, the friendship line, right is might, or might is right. Even in times of change, certain underlying principles endure. The instinct to maintain one's principles in times of change and transformation, where Jupiter will establish right action in larger social realm. Here we have Saturn, which leads to inner strength and endurance as long as it is not threatened from the outside. The instinct to maintain one's principles as long as one's security is not threatened. And if your security is threatened, you might abandon the base, the understanding, and adapt a new base. But the fourth line is very fixed, and it can break rather than adapt like the third line. So it has to abandon those principles, otherwise it will bend. It will break. Excuse me, it will not bend. It will not be able to bend, it will break. Fifth line, on the other hand, we have flexibility, easy adaptation to circumstances. On one side, the moon exalted, whereas superficiality is a valuable tool that, while masking the inner light, permits adaptation to prevailing conditions, an instinct for adaptation in times of change, or the urge to express oneself in direct and often violent rejection of conformity. The potential of the instinct to reject adaptation and conformity in times of change, and fight or just easily adapt to the circumstances. People project here on the endurance, and it's only up to the so the projection field is there, but it's up to the practicality to decide whether something is doable or not. Otherwise, you're being put on the stake. The sixth line, tranquility, the need to calmly face impermanence, an underlying acceptance of change that may or may not lead to tranquility, the instinctive awareness to accept change and transformation, impermanence of proof of meaninglessness with its attendant manifestation, depression, delusion, and in the extreme self-destruction, the fear engendered when change is experienced as impermanence and the potential for depression. The sixth line will not involve it to stay tranquil as long as there is no soulmate or not. So it has to really believe in the growth and to just accept change, which will lead to tranquility, and to finish the job, or impermanence as proof of meaninglessness and just coming fears and other feelings, and it's more like stuckness and depression, delusion, and etc. So we have possibility for growth. On the other hand, change and transformation, again, for it's part of the channel of growth and part of the transformation, a design of being driven. So we have we need support to ground ourselves, and as well as we have the other gates in also in the sacral and in the spleen, where the nodes of the moon are, the 27th and the 28th. We have the greed, the nourishment in the gate of caring, the obsession with having much more than one needs. Here, the psychological manifestation, the obsession and dependency of knowing what is hidden, the secret policeman, the power derived in having more than one needs, whether sexually, mentally, or materially. And the opposite, the mundane and wholly without redeeming value, greed, a lust that inevitably cripples and addicts, the lust for power to get more than one needs. And the other side, so growth and ambition and continuity, conservatism in garnished with adventurism and an unfounded risk-taking, a basic conservatism that even in adventurous acts is necessarily prudent, like here we have also the conservatism, or the opposite, the expansiveness where risk-taking is rationalized and failure is ensured, intuitive rationalizing of risk-taking in times of struggle. So this is going on for quite some time, for 3 months. And this is what we get as conditioning from the interstellar. So the nodes of the moon are connecting us to the other, they're like gates to the other stars. So it shows us some more universal direction and scenery, and where our perspective is. So game playing and care on one hand, nourishment, but greed, in the line of greed, apparently is the setting which the program is conditioning us with. And since we have the 36th gate in Pluto, which is the illusion, spirituality, something which is not seen, something which we will see after 2025, when Pluto will be out of the, Neptune will be out of the 36th gate, but right now it's in the 4th line, espionage, the ability to prepare for and anticipate decline through the accumulation of secret or privileged information. The realization that knowledge, both covert and esoteric, is necessary if one is to be prepared for crisis and change. And the tendency in recognizing the strengths of the opposition to accept the inevitability of decline and rather than resist to others' own services to guarantee survival. The double agent. So this is going on under the surface, in the water, diluted, so secretively in a way, which will bring to some kind of transcendence. We have at the same time the mutative, one of the most mutative gates, the 60th gate, the gate of limitation, part of the channel of mutation, also part of the format channels, where the natural desire for expansion when limitation is essential creates confusion from the top. Expansive energy that cannot handle limitation, or it's in the fifth line, leadership, or the awareness that the destruction of the old limitation simply creates new ones. The result in behavioral patterns that demonstrate this understanding through actions and enhances leadership potential. The energy to handle a lifelong process of dealing with limitations. And after all, being practical and knowing how to overthrow them and to transcend limitations. To get to a new order eventually and get out of the chaos, pass through the difficulties of the beginning and bring maybe new ways in a pulse mechanism, and that's the truth transformation in psychology, which all of this is part of a sequence. And looking at the last format gate, it's the 52nd gate in the sixth line. It's in Mars, so this is the immature energy, super dynamic, very strong source, very big source of energy, and it's keeping still mounting, the gate of stillness in the sixth line, peacefulness, a harmonic and balanced attunement that is at ease regardless of the situation, the lack of pressure in time of stillness, and the other side, delusion as a substitute for genuine tranquility. Given the positive nature of this position, the delusion may be just as effective as the real thing, where the pacification of the energy is extreme pressure, real or imagined, does not disturb the stillness. So pressure will not disturb the stillness. We have here the possibility for peacefulness in the role model, administrator, optimist. So it's an objective position of being still, waiting for things, waiting and looking for the right spirit and the abundance, which is what we're restricted by. So we have in the fourth line, assimilation, the establishment of a framework that balances principles with energy and leads inevitably to expansion and prosperity. The possible spirit that comes with emotional awareness and energy are balanced and principled, or the boundless energy that knows no restraint, boundless energy that ignores awareness at the risk of the spirit. And this is how we're going to be limited by Saturn. Hence, you don't follow your strategy and authority. Basically, you will not get the abundance of the spirit, the opportunity to assimilate and establish the framework that balances the principles with energy. We have Uranus in the same line as the Sun, the increase, the diversification, and our values and relating. Venus is in the 20th gate, contemplation, the gate of the now. First line, superficiality. It's a lovely line, a reliance on shallowness, the raising of superficiality to an art form, the sloganeer, superficial expression as an art form. And that is the value. So it will be interesting what superficiality will be in the air, on the news, and in the all around us, raised to an art form. So all those bimbos will be there reaping the fruits of their art. The 24th, we're going to hear a lot of communication about the return, the 24th gate of rationalization. So a lot of rationalization will be in the communication, in the hermit. Fourth line, the opportunist, so it's quite friendly. Transformation that can only take place in isolation. The discipline and focus that assures renewal. Aloneness enriches the potential for rational thought. So we have here fatigue, the fourth line, and the other side, the tendency in isolation to live in a fantasy world. Aloneness encourages the potential of illusion or delusion. So you might be thinking too much, looking for answers of the unknown, looking for opportunities. And in isolation, this can lead to illusion and delusion, potentially, or to rational thought. So communication will be funny because people will be talking about looking for answers, trying to rationalize things, and at the same time not understanding the other and isolating, because this is part of the individual circuit. So it's deafness here. You don't really hear the other. So communicating out of deafness, out of knowing or not knowing, will be a fun thing to watch, I guess. Not for us knowing what's going on, really, watching the movie for what it is. The 11th gate moon is in the 6th line, so it will change very soon in the 10th gate, and it will give us a definition 1020, but right now it is in the 6th line, which is peace, the gate of ideas, 6th line, adaptability, the inner balance to accept transition, the innate awareness that all forms are transitory, the realization that ideas lead to change and are changeable. Same as the 32nd gate, duration, the gate of continuity, saying that the only thing you can rely on is change, actually. Adaptability, the other side, in its most negative manifestation, the speculator who profits at the expense of others in times of peace or war. The realization of what idea is of value in any situation. This is what the driving force is and what we're thinking about. Trying to adapt ideas and see where change can happen or not, because if there is no trust, there is no sympathy, and ideas will not be perceived openly. It's the 6th line, the role model. So let's see. Not yet. Very soon we're gonna change lines and move into the 10th line, 10th gate. Okay. Cannot see here for how much is left. But basically, we will get into the channel of awakening, which will give us the possibility to wake up to in the now, to sudden realizations, some sudden aha moments. So that's what's up to come. But remember, this is the transit field. This is the conditioning force of the program. So unless your strategy and authority tells you so, maybe there's nothing for you to grow here, or to endure and transform and bring continuity to. So it's quite a heavy transit, but you don't have to be influenced by that. In its unusualness, the receptive decade of direction, fifth line, intelligence application, we have here the strategies with Mercury exalted, reason, management of resources, higher knowing as a gift to strategy. So it's in the air, knowing the right direction in the higher self. And here we have also the inability to share responsibility or recognize the abilities of others. Higher knowing is an exclusively individual and selfish process. And in the fifth line of the 42nd gate, we also have self-actualization and not sharing strictly as an inner experience, that inner growth that empowers reclusiveness and reclusive nature. So it's in 4 days, but it relates to, indeed, we have seclusion, self-actualization, and basically the genetic continuity here shows times in which maybe we need to reflect on things and wait to see before we act. So depending, of course, on your inner authority, if things come to you and you respond, or you're initiated, if you're invited, or you have the inner impulse to finish things, it might be a good time or not. This is the transit field, and it doesn't have to be what you go through, but this is what the world at large will be going through, and you can watch that. This is Veronica from Human Design Journey. Thank you for being with me. And if it was useful, please like and subscribe to my channel, Human Design Journey. And I'll be back with more. Bye for now.